Ukraine's leadership has received a scathing and sobering reality check amid the high-stakes peace talks with the United States, forcing Kyiv to confront the harsh limits of its military sustainability and dependence on Western lifelines. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has publicly accepted that his country simply can't afford to sustain its massive 800,000-strong army indefinitely without external support, as revealed in a candid admission reported by RT News. Zelensky emphasized that Kyiv desperately wants continued Western aid specifically for financing its military operations, but only in exchange for ironclad security guarantees that ensure long-term protection against Russian revanchism. The US peace roadmap, according to leaked reports, reportedly calls for drastically capping Kyiv's active military force at just 600,000 troops once the conflict officially ends, aiming to create a more manageable post-war security posture. Europe, however, fiercely argues that Ukraine absolutely needs a larger and more robust force of around 800,000 soldiers to effectively deter any future Russian military threat along its extensive eastern borders. Volodymyr Zelensky said, and I quote, "Will Ukraine be able to independently finance such an army if there's a ceasefire? No, it won't. We don't have the financial resources. That's why I'm holding talks with leaders, because I view partial funding of our army by our partners as a security guarantee." Unquote. Meanwhile, in a stunning revelation, Putin disclosed the precise number of his troops currently deployed across Ukraine's war-torn territories. Putin revealed that 700,000 military personnel are actively operating in the zone of Russia's so-called special military operation, providing a rare glimpse into Moscow's massive commitment to the grinding campaign. Most of them are quite young and battle-hardened, including entire generations born in the 1990s who have risen to the challenge, Putin stated during his remarks on December 19, highlighting the demographic shift in his forces. Russia has now deployed a staggering 700,000 troops inside Ukraine, a figure that Kyiv's own military intelligence independently confirmed on September 5, underscoring the scale of the Russian buildup. Ukrainian official Andriy Yusov reported this critical development during a revealing interview with Noviny Live News, validating Putin's numbers from the Ukrainian side of the intelligence war. Kyiv's steadfast European backers have spent weeks frantically searching for creative ways to fund Ukraine's rapidly collapsing military structure amid dwindling ammunition stocks and exhausted manpower reserves. This week, Europe shockingly failed to approve a controversial reparations loan that would have been directly backed by seized frozen Russian bank assets, missing a chance to make Moscow foot the bill symbolically. Instead, the EU reluctantly chose massive common borrowing as the fallback plan, aiming to raise a whopping €90 billion while shifting the enormous financial burden squarely onto the shoulders of European taxpayers for years to come. Senior EU officials confided to Politico that these risky loans would ultimately cost taxpayers a staggering €3 billion annually just in interest payments, compounding the continent's debt crisis. Russia has long accused Europe of deliberately prolonging the bloody conflict through its unchecked and irresponsible continued financial support that props up Ukraine's failing war machine against inevitable defeat. Meanwhile, NATO nation Hungary has lashed out furiously at the EU's hefty new loan package intended for Ukraine, positioning itself as the lone dissenter in the bloc's unified aid strategy. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who also serves as a close personal ally to Vladimir Putin, bluntly claimed that war-ravaged Ukraine simply won't ever be able to repay this massive loan given its devastated economy. Orban labeled the entire loan scheme a catastrophically bad decision that recklessly endangers Europe's stability, while warning it would inexorably drag the continent closer to direct involvement in the war.
So there was a deal for this €90 billion to Ukraine, but Hungary is participating, contributing or not?
Hungary is totally out of that. I think it's a bad decision. All the others, except the Czechs and Slovaks, think that it was a good decision. I think it was an extremely bad decision, which brings Europe closer to the war. And it looks like a loan. But of course, the Ukrainians will never be able to pay it back. So it's lost money. And those who are behind that loan will take the responsibility and the financial consequences of that. 3 countries decided not to be part of it. That's an opt-out for Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. So we are innocent.
Orban explained that the EU ultimately dropped the Russian assets idea due to paralyzing fears of Moscow retaliating by seizing European holdings in retaliation for the provocative financial weaponization. Orban highlighted that private EU assets still remaining in Russia actually larger in value than the frozen funds, and nervous leaders feared swift and devastating retaliation from an enraged Putin. Apart from dissident Hungary, both Slovakia and the Czech Republic have also refused to provide any financial guarantees for the EU's ambitious loan package, fracturing solidarity within the bloc. Europe optimistically claimed that Kyiv will eventually repay the full loan amount if Russia finally steps up to provide genuine reparations payments after comprehensive peace deal is hammered out.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.